Hello and welcome to Bangladesh Today. I am Smita Prakash. We have with us Dr. Smruti Pattanaik, Research Fellow at the Institute for Defence Studies and Analyses, to discuss the current political stalemate in Bangladesh regarding the caretaker government. Thank you very much for speaking with us. I'd like to begin by asking that, if you could explain to us the reason behind the current stalemate in Bangladesh over this caretaker government. What is it that is preventing the two Begums from coming to the negotiating table and moving ahead with a process which will see elections take place on time and a representative election in January?
I think one needs to look at 2 to 3 factors because maybe the two Begums are not speaking on the issue of the caretaker government. They are not prepared to speak, and the only time probably after many years they just made a telephonic call to each other.
And that was a very awkward phone call, if I may say.
And if you look at the content which was initially put by the Awami League government and later some portions were leaked by the BNP also, shows the content, they did not speak much about the caretaker government, but also,
blaming each other.
Blaming each other. So, therefore, I would like to say that, this is just manifestation, the rivalry regarding the caretaker government is a manifestation of the mistrust which exists between the BNP and Awami League. And this mistrust is something which is not very new in terms of, since 1991, after the reintroduction of democracy in Bangladesh. One has seen the two political parties have become extremely competitive. In fact, they have contested the liberation war, especially what was the role of the two leaders, what was the role of General Ziaur Rahman and what was the role of the Mujibur Rahman, who contributed more to the liberation war. Is it General Ziaur Rahman who gave the call for independence, or it is Mujibur Rahman whose political party actually led to the liberation struggle.
So it's the legacy that they are fighting over, and the caretaker government is just one of the things that they are fighting?
It is a legacy, and also the contested nature of the politics. It has completely become a bi-party kind of system with two dominant political parties. One is 14-party alliance which is in power, mostly
and they have 18 parties.
Yeah, center-left party, 17 or 18, I don't remember, but they also have a big alliance. But if you look at some of the constituent political parties, these are very small parties. It may sound very grand, or 18 political parties or 14 political parties, but some of the political parties have been very small. So what is happening now is not something which is very new. You have to look into the history and look at 1996, what happened regarding the caretaker government. The 5th Jatiya Sangsad election, where the BNP went ahead and had the elections unilaterally, and Awami League did not participate in that election. So the Awami League along with the Jamaat Islami, in fact, they fought together to get the caretaker government so that the election can take place under the caretaker government.
And now the Awami League does not want the caretaker.
Yeah, but it also has a 15th amendment to the constitution where the caretaker government has been abolished.
That 15th amendment, they're saying it was not really representative. There's also one view that when the 15th amendment was brought about, it was kind of rushed through. It was not representative of the majority view or all the views that were accommodated. Is that justified in saying that the Awami League really pushed through with this amendment and got rid of the caretaker system?
I think
it worked fine for Bangladesh for a while, isn't it?
I think if you look at constitutionally, the Awami League had the 2/3 majority, so there is no way they would not have got this amendment passed. So that is number one. Number two, the Supreme Court had also said that this particular caretaker government had become is unconstitutional because there is no parallel in any other country which has this kind of example. And the caretaker government came into being because of mistrust. They don't have independent institution like the Election Commission, which is considered as very, very partisan, which is a partisan judiciary. So those are some of the problems. But apart from this, I would like to say what probably influenced the government, of course, apart from the political reasons one knows, is the fact that after 2006 till 2008, when the military-backed caretaker government had come, from 2006 till January 12th, 2007, during that period, the role of caretaker government had become very, very controversial.
Right.
What the BNP did between 2001 to 2006, it increased the retirement age of the Supreme Court judges because as per the caretaker government provision, the last retired judge of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will become the caretaker chief of the next, the transitional government.
Okay.
So they extended. So as a result, the person whom they wanted to become the caretaker chief, he got 2 years extension. So he retired by the time, the government term was over. But what actually happened during this period of time, that because of too much of politicization, criticism, the Chief Justice refused to take over. He said, with this kind of controversy, I would not like to take over. So what the BNP did, there are 6, this particular article of the Constitution speaks of many stages, how the caretaker has to be selected, who should be the first choice, second, failing this, second, third, it's 6.
It's watertight, and it's a well thought out amendment that was brought out.
Yes.
It wasn't something that was just, just got rid of. Now tell me, when Awami League talks in terms of a neutral government, how is that different from the caretaker government? Is it not representative? And this neutral government that Sheikh Hasina is talking about, why is she not able to convince the Awami League that that will work fine too if you have a neutral government?
I think, the neutral government, like the, Begum Zia has said, there is nothing called a neutral government. So the problem here is that, when you say neutral government, who are the people who are going to be the part of the neutral government? She speaks of national government consisting of, 5 each from the 2 political parties, and of course, and the smaller parties also. Now the thing is that I think perhaps that can be a solution if the BNP accepts it. But the BNP's problem is that it feels that, it can bank on the caretaker government issue, and probably, will try and politically benefit if it raises the issue of caretaker government. Because many people are not comfortable with the abolition of
this issue of caretaker government. That's being done in a violent manner. I mean, it means hartals, it means students not able to take exams, children not able to go to schools and colleges, workers, I mean, daily wage earners don't get it, and textile industry. I mean, that is going to be hurt so much. You're talking about December, which is like the maximum exports happen during this time because of Christmas celebrations and intake of all the permits. I mean, intake of all the garments which are to go into Europe and America. Now, if textile industry is not able to meet with the deadlines in December, it's going to mean a lot of trouble for the country. So, for national good, at least, these hartals and this hartal politics is something that the Awami League should not associate with the democracy movement or with this caretaker system.
The BNP.
Sorry, the BNP, yeah.
And actually, the problem is that hartal politics is part of the political culture of Bangladesh for a very, very long time. Because, like the BNP, which, it hardly participated in the parliament, because they felt, the argument was that, we are not given chance to speak in the parliament. But apart from that, this has been part of the culture, taking to the street is something which has become part and parcel of Bangladesh political culture, which is really, very, very sad. As far as, whether there is a loss to the garment industries and all, I think politics is such, they really do not, care, as it appears.
But they need the votes.
They need the votes, but I think probably at the same time, this contested politics, you have to show to your supporters that, you are more successful in putting across the point and all. I don't think anybody cares for the national good.
And also I think they're moving, the BNP is moved so right wing, and they are so sure of their support base among the right wing parties, among the people who really want, Islamic kind of a society back in Bangladesh. It doesn't really matter to them about those who are going to work in factories. Their votes don't matter at all for the BNP. At least that's what it seems to us sitting out here.
I won't say that to the BNP that those votes do not matter, and of course the garment industry also must be consisting some people who may be believing in the right kind of ideology. It is true that the BNP is much more center right. It is a nationalist party, but it has much more close alliance with the Islamic political parties in Bangladesh. But I think they are not actually, they are much more motivated and focused on the current politics, how to achieve power. If you look at the opinion poll, all the opinion polls shows that it is BNP probably which is going to come back to power, in the next election.
That's because it's the default mode, it's always been one party or the other.
Yeah, if that is the case, I really feel that BNP should jump to whatever it is probably
go
also
for the election.
go for the elections. But I think probably the BNP fears that, as you have seen in the past elections,
Opinion polls cannot be trusted.
Opinion polls cannot be trusted. The bureaucracy and everything, the government transfers its own people and put them at right places before the elections.
Okay.
So therefore, the BNP feels that perhaps, if there are Army League bureaucrats who are much more affiliated or at least have affinity towards Army League are in those places, perhaps the election would not be free and fair, because this has been a case in Bangladesh for quite some time. So this is not something which is new. You put your people before elections, and that is one of the reasons why in 2006, when BNP was, going out of the power, it appointed the caretaker government. It appointed its own people, 300, Upabahi, this Nirbachan Adhikaris. He put, in 300 posts, which could have favored the BNP. So that is, always the opposition party fears that perhaps, if they have their own bureaucrats at the right place, who knows, maybe.
No, that is an ideal situation. Every political party would want its own people in various government posts just before election. It doesn't happen that way in any country, right? In any democracy, at least. I want to know also about the role of, international observers, diplomats. There's been a lot of controversy, and it reflects in the Bangladeshi media that there is interference with regard to its democratic setup, that diplomats are interfering. I mean, the American diplomats are meeting with Khaleda Zia, meeting with Sheikh Hasina, probably to try and find a solution to this, because nobody really wants Bangladesh not to have elections. But why are people so, fearful of international observers or international mediation?
I think, two questions, like you said, bureaucracy and political everywhere, but I think the extent of politicization which you see in Bangladesh probably is not present in any other country, including the recent democracies in South Asia. What actually has happened is that, you appoint your own people. So therefore, they don't even have an independent election commission, because if that is the case, they should have an independent election commission. But in the past 5 years, once the government decided that it's going for the 15th Amendment, it's going for the abolition of the caretaker government, what they should have done is to strengthen the election commission. And here you have an election commission which doesn't want, in case it feels, that is something which is unfair, it doesn't want to recall, ask for repoll. So therefore, that shows how can, one election commission on its own can give its right away, the right of the election commission to conduct free and fair elections. So that is where I have a bit problem in this, the system of bureaucracy and the system of politicization, which affects the judiciary also. That's very problematic. Second issue is that, what you asked about the international communities. I would put it this way. This interference is much more of getting the elections done, because everybody wants the election to happen, and that should be a normal process of transition from one political parties to other. They do not want a repetition of 2007 and 2006 December, where there was a lot of violence, street violence, people getting killed. So they don't want the repetition of that, where the army is forced to take charge. To take charge and to see that the peace is established, because the stability and the peace and something which is beyond violence is something which everybody desires. And that is why last time when the military backed caretaker government came, it was such a relief even to those people in Bangladesh who really are extremely against any kind of army's involvement.
Is that a possibility before January for it to happen, the military coming in as a caretaker's situation?
I think, the thing is that right now it is not very, very clear, but definitely the military would not like to be involved in, in the politics of Bangladesh. But I think if all the options fail, with the support of the international community and support of some of the Bangladeshis, as the violence increases, probably there will be an increased support for military to come in and conduct the elections.
Do you see the next few months being very tumultuous in Bangladesh?
Yes, I think the manner in which it is going, 72 hours, 60 hours hartal, 120 hours hartal, and with recently 17 people being killed, I think Bangladesh is really moving towards a very, very dangerous path with much more violence is likely. And I don't see these two political parties coming together also. In spite of the violence, the Army League is not likely to give in. from its position of not having a caretaker government, and the BNP will not participate in the elections if the caretaker government is not restored. And yesterday the Election Commission has come out by saying that legally the Jamaat Islami cannot participate in the elections, and they are going to appeal in the Supreme Court. Let's see. Then then it's going to be much more violent.
A volatile situation indeed. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.